don't really have an aesthetically pleasing background because I'm not a YouTuber, so you have to excuse me. Oh, ignore the mess, ignore the mess. Okay, hi folks. So this fall I will be attending Leeds Arts University, where I will be studying illustration. In this video I wanted to walk you through my portfolio and give you some insight into how I built it. I know there already are a lot of videos on the internet, on the YouTubes of people's illustration portfolios, but when I started to, research illustration portfolios and what to do, wanted to know what to include and how to include it, how to design the layout and everything, I didn't really find any of them helpful. I am applying to an English university from the country of Norway, so it was really important for me to see examples of digital portfolios, and most of the videos that I found were just about portfolios that I brought into physical interviews. Now, because of COVID, I feel like digital portfolios are more relevant than ever. So this is why I'm making this video, to maybe help out someone who's in a similar situation as I was, and maybe give some helpful advice, I don't know. So I'll walk you through my portfolio first, and then maybe I'll try to give some advice at the end. I'll list my hottest tips for a good digital portfolio. So for reference, I applied to 6 universities. They were all illustration courses. 5 of them were through talking. 5 of them were through UCAS, and then the last one was independently, and that was Leeds Arts University. In case anyone was wondering, the other schools I applied to were Liverpool, John Moores, Worcester, I think that's how you pronounce it, Worcester University, Solent University, Nottingham Trent University, and Uclean University of Central Lancashire. My top 3 out of all these 6 schools were at first, I think, Uclean, and then LJMU, Liverpool John Moores, and then LAU, Leeds Arts University. Not to brag, but I got accepted to all the schools I applied for. Now, there are multiple ways that you can create a digital portfolio, and different schools will ask for different things or different types of digital portfolio. Some schools may prefer a PDF slideshow kind of deal, but then others might prefer a link to a website type of thing, I chose to make mine in InDesign because that's what I'm used to and that's what I've been taught before to make a portfolio in. There is also a way to upload InDesign files to the internet, to the World Wide Web, and then you just have you have a link to the InDesign document that is online, if that makes sense. As I said earlier, different schools will ask for different things. That also includes how many works you should include, how many pages, whether they want an image description or not, so on and so forth. So you just have to tailor to whatever the school tells you to do. But as long as you are applying for the same course, they usually want to see kind of the same stuff. For this reason, I will show you 2 examples of the portfolios I made, the portfolio, actually singular, that I sent. They're pretty much the same. One is just the full portfolio, and the second one is a very condensed version. And as you watch this, please keep in mind that there are multiple different ways to make a portfolio and make a portfolio that's best suited for you. So, mine is not the final answer or the prime example, this is how a portfolio have to look like. It's just, an example of how it can look. It's important that you do what you feel suits you and your needs and what showcases your work the best way. Okay, let's get started, shall we? So this is pretty much what most of my portfolios that I submitted will look like. So on the first page, I wanted to include my name, my UCAS number, and then for the first picture just like a portrait of me. I like the idea of starting with a self-portrait so that it kind of gets a bit more personal, and that the person assessing my portfolio will feel some sort of connection to me and my work. Like they kind of have a face to put the work together with. I don't know. Like in a job application, you might have a picture of yourself, and then for this portfolio I have a drawing of myself. It also really helps that I feel like this portrait is one of my stronger works, which is really important. You want a good impression, and a good first impression is very important. You just really need something that makes the viewer go, wow, this is going to be good. And then I also add a little description, like the material and size, because especially size is really important, because in a digital portfolio it's very useful information, because it's hard to tell the size of stuff when you see it on the computer screen. And as you can see here, mine says 42 times 60 centimeters, which is fairly large for a piece of paper, and I think that says a lot about the work and the amount of work that went into it. And for the next page, I added a little contents page just to, you know, let them know what they'll find in this portfolio, kind of get them prepared for the ride that they're gonna take. My portfolio is pretty long, as you can see. It's over 30, I can't pronounce that number, 30 slides. So I just wanted to, you know, give them a little moment to prepare so that I don't overwhelm them. If you look closely, you can see that I've sorted my portfolio into categories. I just wanted to get the technical drawing stuff out of the way right away to show them my skills. Schools will usually ask to see observational drawings like this, usually studies. I decided to go with these new studies as well as this still life that we did at my last school. It doesn't have to be still life or nude studies. It could be your room, it could be a portrait of a friend, it could be a drawing of your garden, it could be like a random object that you find, I don't know. But they usually look for like these traditional motives, you know, something that is in the name, observational studies, you know, drawings. You look at a thing and then you draw the thing. How well does that translate from something three-dimensional to pen and paper? For my second work, I wanted to show some more observational drawings, but then also show them how I turned those into a finished artwork. So I made these in college, which is high school for Americans, for a school project. So this was technically in 2017, I believe, but I felt like the documentation of the process was pretty good, so I still wanted to use it because it's very important for them to see your progression, I guess, you know, how something goes from this thing to another. So I just lied about the year. Sometimes the schools would say, oh, we want to see things from two years ago to now, like and so 2017, that was 4 years ago. But I still think it's relevant and pretty strong and representative of my art still. Here I have taken my sketches and developed them into like idea sketches kind of. I also included a reference to my inspiration. I think it's important to show them that you are aware and have some prior knowledge to the field you want to study, or just art in general. So I have referenced a local illustrator that I really like, named Annette Moy. On the last slide, I have dedicated the whole page to the finished work because I wanted it to be as big as possible, which you will also see that I have done with most of the, if not all the other pages. You know, first dedicate a few slides to the sketches and then a final slide for the final piece. So now we are getting into the purely illustrative work. This project was also for college, so technically it must have been 2017 or 2018, so I lied about that year too, whoops. I try to fit all the idea sketches on one page. They might be a little small, you know, I just thought they will probably have it on a big screen or something, so it's fine. These are just some more sketches, a bit more complex, as well as like medium tests. Here I have developed those sketches into something more tangible and also provided some font work. I think this is great to show as well, as this shows that you are thinking about every aspect and not just choosing a text font at random, but that you have put some thought into it. And lastly, the finished image. I did this, we had to do this in both black and white as well as color. So this is the last of my college illustration work. I decided to show the preliminary sketch as well as the more detailed sketch together so that I could see the adjustments right away. Some more typography work, blah blah blah. The first draft, and then the final illustration. This is the first of my non-illustration centered works, but it did have a lot of varied preliminary sketches, so I just wanted to show that I'm able to brainstorm, to just throw random ideas out there. Then you have the developed and more, you know, technical kind of sketches. And then lastly, the product poster and model. The model was also a reason that I wanted to show this project, because I'm really proud of it. It's my first model of any kind, and I think it's cute. And then we move on to my art exam from 2020. I chose to include this because it has a lot of stages, I would call it, and I feel like it shows complexity in regards to my creative process. It starts off as a photo I took, then I played around with it in Photoshop, created this collage styled quick sketch, you know, just like a digital sketch. And then I made a sketch of the sketch and then I scanned the sketch, and then I redrew the final image in Photoshop. And then I made it into a print. I printed it out on like thick paper. Then I went back to the spot where I took the first original photo, and then I captured that picture as well. These are the other drawings in that series. In the text box, you can see that I talk about the inspiration behind this project, as well as some references to art history. Again, it's great to show off your knowledge about these things if you have it. Okay, so if you recognize this, do not at me. Yes, I did a fan art for a fan fiction, but it's relevant to my portfolio, so I chose to include this because it again shows that I can work digitally. I can play around with color schemes, and I have some experience with book illustration. You know, not professionally of course, but just I have done it. And then we have a bit of a long one. So last year I contributed to a scene made by an internet friend of mine called Luna at What's Your Design. You should check her out at the link I was about to say, you know. And as you can see to the left, I included my notes and written out ideas. Definitely not necessary, did not need to include that at all. I just wanted to show that there were some sort of plan behind everything I made. And then you have the two of the works that you'll find in the finished scene page. I'm sorry that I don't really talk about what most of these are. I'm just saying like literally what they are, not like what I've drawn. But I mean, you can see, you have eyes, I assume, so most of you are able to tell what all of this is. Okay, so next slide, you have to the left an original drawing that I did, and then to the right you have a digital collage I made. Didn't draw anything on the image on the right. It was all put together with different images. And then here you have the rest of the drawings that I did, where I also used like texture / PNG images. If you have some experience with design, you probably know what I'm talking about. I just wanted to mix like the cartoonish-ish style with some type of realism. And this is what the finished page ended up looking like. Obviously I didn't create the layout and everything, that was all Luna's work. But I wrote the text and I provided the drawings, and I thought it'd be a good idea to present like a collaborative project to show that I can work with other people. And then finally, the printed out version, I included the back and front cover as well, just to give it a feeling of completeness. I just made sure to state that I didn't make this scene, I just, drew some drawings. I also run like a little web shop where I mostly sell stickers, and I wanted to show the schools that I have some experience with creating things for the purpose of selling them. And then for this I took a photo that I already had taken the year before and then made it into like a digital collage again. Originally that was like the final version of that image. When I decided to open up a web shop, I reworked it into a sticker, and specifically a holographic sticker. And then I added a link to my web shop to #flex. I don't think any of them will have bothered to check it out, but just in case you were curious. Here are some lino cut prints, I believe it's called. For this one, I debated for a long time whether I should include this or not, but I thought, hey, why the hell not? I thought it had some good preliminary work, I guess, kind of. And then I also thought that the finished product was fun, and I feel like it represents my artwork in general, but also me as a person. Believe it or not. Again, you can see my references to other artists in the text provided. I just like the colors, and I've never done anything with wood before. Yeah, I have. At least I haven't like touched wood since primary school. No, middle school. I don't know, 8th grade. And I've never like worked with wood in like a creative way at all, ever. So I'm really proud of what I did with this one. So that's why I wanted to show it off. There is some more traditional kind of work again. It says second painting in the title, but that's a typo. I guess there used to be another painting before this one, but then I took it away and then I forgot to fix it. Anyway, I do paint in my spare time, and I also did that a lot at another art school I went to, and I just wanted to show that aspect of my art as well. Again, I started off with showing the sketches on one slide and then the finished piece on the next slide. I also added some close-ups as this piece is pretty big and detailed. And then last but not least is my photography work. This is also not really relevant to my course, but again, I wanted to show another skill set that I have, as well as including something personal. This one also has an art history reference, so I look very smart and big brain. This particular photo series is actually an installation piece turned photography turned still life painting. Wow, so multifaceted. And then the very last slide is a continuation of my still life photography, just a different photo series. As you can probably tell, I really like taking still lives. If I wasn't so interested in illustration, I might have considered studying commercial photography. Maybe, I think that'd be fun. Every item is something that I own. For the pink image, I used this neat little trick where I held iridescent cellophane in front of the camera, and I thought that was a lot of fun to work with. Okay, so that was like the main illustration portfolio. It was a lot of stuff, I know. When I applied to Leeds Arts University they told me that due to COVID, they only wanted to see 3 of my works, and I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to cut all of that down to just 3? I emailed them asking what they meant exactly, like, do I only get 3 slides or like 3 images, or can I pick 3 projects and then have the supporting sketches and that as well, and then it's more than 3 images and more than 3 slides, but it's 3 projects. They basically said that you can have as many slides as you want, they just need to see 3 projects in total, but you can have more if you want to, but it won't affect like their decision. Like, it won't give you an advantage if you have more than 3 works. You will still be judged at the same level as everyone else, and that was fine with me. I didn't care if it raised my stakes or lowered my stakes. Well, if it lowered my stakes, maybe I would care. But you know, at least it would give my soul some peace. It made it a lot easier for me to figure out what to include and what I could cut out. So I decided in the end to go for 6 of my projects, which I will go through really quickly with you. Of course, gotta start with the self-portrait. I decided to get rid of all the stuff that wasn't strictly illustration related, so I kept the abstract architecture drawing, I kept the Anatomy of the People project, I kept the Ragnarok project, I kept the digital book illustrations, and then I finished off with my art school exam. I decided to get rid of all the non-drawing related stuff. So yeah, that was my portfolio. In the end, as you know, I decided to go with LAU. Originally, Liverpool John Moores was my first pick. Okay, so that was my little rant. Now we can move on to the tips and the advice. My number 1 advice is start early. The earlier the better. After you have submitted your application, the school will send you an email about their portfolio requirements, but I personally think it's too late to start making your portfolio after you have sent in your application. I started making my portfolio this summer, before the deadline even started approaching, like before January, so that I could have all the time in the world. I know it's easier said than done to just like, oh, just start. A lot of people prefer just doing it the night before, but for this, don't do that. At least something that I found that works great for me. And my process is making something, leaving it alone for a few days or even weeks, and then come back and look at it with completely fresh eyes. Your first draft will never be your best. My portfolio has been through a ton of changes and versions, and it took me months to perfect. Second hot tip, don't overlap images, give them space to breathe. With exception, you know, you could see some of my images when they were through, for example, 3 images, they were kind of close together. But if it's a lot of things on one page, don't mush them all together. You don't have to do that. You can give them space to breathe. You can use more than 1 slide. Number 4, start with your best work, end with your second best, or at least something that is really good in general. Don't save the worst for last. You know, when the teacher or whoever is assessing your portfolio, they have gone through your portfolio, they are on the last slide or the last image, and they will sit there with that when they start talking, and if it's something that is significantly weaker than anything else in your portfolio, and that's what they see as they begin their discussion, I don't know, I think it's a bit unprofessional when, you know, when they start talking about your portfolio and they look at, oh, okay, not something bad, but you know, weaker, something that doesn't represent your portfolio perfectly. Did that make sense? I don't know. Number 5, if you don't have InDesign, you can use PowerPoint or any other slide maker program, like Google Slides. Just make sure to save it as a PDF. You can technically use Word or Google Documents if you want to. I don't recommend using that because I think it's really hard to format image and text together in Word. And of course, if the school requires you to link to an online portfolio, you do that. Number 6, I think. Try to have a clear intention with the order you place your works in, like a clear vision behind, so that it makes sense, you know? Don't just throw things randomly together, just try to tell a story, I guess. Number 7, show the whole process, show the shitty doodle to the finished piece. That is like one of the top priorities when making a portfolio. They want to see the whole shebang. Number 8, keep it varied. Show that you can work with different mediums and in different styles. You can work with different projects and contexts and situations. Just show that you're versatile. Number 9, I think it's really good to make like a portfolio base or kind of like a template, and then you can tailor that to each of the school's requirements. Like you just make a portfolio that you think is good, and then as you get requirements from a school, you kind of go into that portfolio that you already made and you do some changes. Make a copy, a duplicate, make changes to that so that you save time doing that. Number 10, you need to know how to talk about your work. What's your intention? What's your idea? This is mostly for interviews, I suppose, which I didn't do any interviews, but if you know that you'll most likely be attending an interview, you should be ready to talk about your work and the work in your portfolio. If you can't say much about one of the works, then consider removing it or switching it out. A good way to know if you can talk about a lot about a work is to know if you're pleased with it or not. Usually if you're super into something that you made, or you're super proud of it, you can talk about it in length. Trust me, I know. If it's something that I really love that I've done, I won't shut the fuck up about it, okay? If it's something that you're not very happy with or you don't feel like holds up anymore, you are less inclined to speak enthusiastically about it. I think it's good to only use work that you are genuinely happy with. Lastly, keep in mind that you're going to school to learn. They are not expecting you to already be like a fully fledged illustrator. They are looking for enthusiasm, they are looking for potential, they are looking for, is this something that you're good at and you can expand upon. So I think that's all I wanted to cover for today. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will try to my best ability to answer. So yeah, goodbye and good luck.